A California man has been charged with the attempted murder of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He was arrested early Wednesday morning near Kavanaugh's Maryland home, the site of recent protests by abortion rights advocates. The individual, identified by police as 26-year-old Nicholas Roski, was armed with a handgun and planned to kill the conservative justice, according to authorities. He was reportedly voicing distress about the expected reversal of a landmark decision legalizing abortion nationwide.
This kind of behavior is behavior that we will not tolerate.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland spoke to reporters when asked about the arrests before a closed-door meeting Wednesday.
Threats of violence and actual violence against the justices, of course, strike at the heart of our democracy, and we will do everything we can to prevent them and to hold people who do them accountable.
Kavanaugh's home in the Washington suburb of Chevy Chase has been the site of some protests by abortion rights advocates since the May 2nd publication of a leaked draft opinion, indicating the court was poised to overturn its 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, recognizing a woman's constitutional right to obtain an abortion. The U.S. Justice Department said on May 11th that it was increasing security for Supreme Court justices following the leaked draft opinion. Abortion rights supporters have held demonstrations in Washington and other cities since the draft was leaked, and since that a right recognized for half a century was poised to be erased by the court's increasingly assertive conservative justices.
Spotify said on Wednesday it expects to reach $100 billion in revenue annually in the next 10 years, an ambitious goal announced during its first investor day since going public in 2018. The audio streaming company also promised high-margin returns from its costly expansion into podcasts and audiobooks, all in the hopes of stoking Wall Street's enthusiasm despite the slowing global economy. To make it happen, Spotify would need to make its revenue grow nearly tenfold from its 2021 figures. Shares of the company rose 6.5% on Wednesday after losing 53% of its market value so far in 2022, worse than the 24% drop in the S&P 500 Communication Services Sector Index, which includes Spotify and other media companies. However, CEO Daniel Ek told investors that the company is performing, quote, better than you probably expect, with gross margins of 28.5%, well on its way to reaching the company's 30 to 35% long-term goal. One of the reasons for not reaching its long-term goals was its aggressive spending, more than $1 billion, to build up its podcast and audiobooks platforms. Ek expects the podcast and audiobooks businesses have the potential to generate margins over 40%, though he did not specify how long it would take to hit that target. While it has so far been a rough year for streaming companies like Spotify and Netflix, the Swedish company recently faced controversy over hosting the popular podcast The Joe Rogan Experience, though the service continued to add users and paying subscribers in the first quarter.
It should be a busy planting season on the plains of Sudan's Gezira scheme, but farmers here are standing idle in a country stalked by rising hunger. They say they don't have the money to fund any new crops. Some who spoke to Reuters say the government failed to buy their wheat under promised terms.
The summer season is threatened with collapse. 50%, 70% of us might not plant, and that puts the food supply in question. Farmers are in a difficult position. People are in a difficult position. The situation has become very difficult.
Nasser Abdallah's wheat should have been sold months ago, but it's still sitting in storage. He took out loans assuming the government would buy it, but now he's worried that if his crop spoils, he won't be able to pay it back.
As you can see, the storage facility is in dire shape. If it rains, I'll be sent straight to jail, no question.
The finance ministry did not comment directly on the wheat purchases, but in a statement said it had committed to buying $300 million worth of wheat and sorghum, adding that it was trying to get money from the central bank. The cost of farmers' fuel rose more than 6,500% in 2021 compared to the year before, the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization said. It added that erratic rain, pests, conflict, and irrigation issues knocked out more than a third of this year's production of wheat, sorghum, and millet. Here's the FAO's Babagana Amadou.
Cost of production, the cost of seeds, certified quality seeds, it's very expensive here. The soil here is also very poor in terms of yield per hectare. The quality of the soil is such that it does not encourage high yield per hectare of production because of continuous use.
Making the situation worse is the rise in fuel prices driven by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sudan's military leadership has said it is addressing the issue, but farmers criticized a recent purchasing announcement as having prohibitive conditions.
To the lawmakers who feel that we do not need stricter gun laws, let me paint a picture for you. My son, Zaire, has a hole in the right side of his neck, 2 on his back, and another on his left leg, caused by an exploding bullet from an AR-15.
U.S. lawmakers heard gut-wrenching testimony from victims of gun violence and their relatives at a hearing on Wednesday. Zanetta Everhart described the injuries suffered by her 20-year-old son, Zaire Goodman, who worked at the Tops Friendly supermarket in Buffalo when an avowed white supremacist with a semi-automatic rifle attacked. Her son survived. 10 people did not.
As I clean his wounds, I can feel pieces of that bullet in his back. Shrapnel will be left inside of his body for the rest of his life.
And then we went to go hide behind my teacher's desk and behind the backpacks.
Perhaps the most sobering voice at Wednesday's hearing of the House Oversight and Reform Committee came from 11-year-old Mia Cirillo. The 4th grade student was in her classroom at Robb Elementary School when an 18-year-old gunman with a semi-automatic rifle stormed in, slaughtering 19 students and 2 teachers.
And shot my teacher and told my teacher goodnight and shot her in the head. When I went to the backpacks, he shot my friend that was next to me, and I thought he was going to come back to the room, so I grabbed the blood and put it all over me. And
what did you do then when you put the blood on yourself?
Just stay quiet, and then I got my teacher's phone and called 911.
And what did you tell 911?
I told her that we need help.
Wednesday's hearing comes as lawmakers wrangle over new gun safety measures in the wake of mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde. President Joe Biden has asked Congress to raise the age limit on purchasing semi-automatic rifles, expand background checks, and enact what are known as red flag laws, which allow police to remove weapons from individuals deemed dangerous.
I chose to be a pediatrician. I chose to take care of children.
The witnesses on Capitol Hill included Dr. Roy Guerrero, a pediatrician who treated victims of the Uvalde massacre. He described the horrific injuries inflicted on small bodies by the gunman's weapon.
In this case, you are the doctors, and our country is the patient. We are lying on the operating table, riddled with bullets like the children of Robb Elementary and so many other schools. We are bleeding out, and you are not there.
With Democrats and Republicans deeply divided on guns, the talks in the Senate have focused on modest goals, including encouraging states to pass red flag laws and federal funding to improve school security.
What do you want to do with it? We had them come.
So this right here is Project Origin's autonomous, weaponized platform for military usage of reconnaissance, assault, or probing, or a litany of other experimental options right now to be fielded in the Army to either assist with the ground force or to do long-range reconnaissance through different means.
Also us being able to see what we need to do to better utilize. And new autonomous behaviors that are at a mature level. There's a handheld remote control here.
So as a scout platoon sergeant, when I go out there and have a 6-man reconnaissance team out in the field, if we have known likely or suspected enemy within a couple kilometers, instead of sacrificing all 4 of my men initially, or 6 of my men out there, I can send this up front first, do the probing, get the positive identification of other tanks, is it dismounted personnel, whatever the threat is. We can launch the UAS, we can get better situational awareness on the ground before I commit my soldiers to the fight.
The system that we've adapted onto the field. The soldier misses a turn. Too dangerous. Very dangerous. Yeah.
And then they can open away.
Yeah. So say they thought over.
Hey guys, give us the start too.